Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie Hall, and I am a parent here at Brent. I have 3 kids that go here. I'm also, I used to teach, and I have been serving at my church with the youth and the kids for about 16 years. I love students. And another thing about me is I love to read. I love to read, and I'll read about just about anything. But books that are about adventure are my favorite. When I was in high school, my favorite book that I read was called The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I'm sure some of you have either heard of it or read it, but I love adventures because there's so many twists and turns and ups and downs, and it's exciting. And even though my life isn't quite adventurous as Mark Twain's, it's full of adventures. It's full of ups and downs. Some of my adventures, my highs and my lows, my ups and my downs, one of them is that I was 4 months old when my family moved to the Philippines. So my parents are missionaries here. They still are here. Another thing is I love gymnastics, and I was able to compete with the Philippine gymnastics team when I was in 4th grade. I love to read, as I said. I love to play games. I love playing basketball. I played volleyball in high school, and we won 1 game by default. Something fun, I lived in Cambodia for 2 years teaching English as a foreign language. And also I've been married for 16 years. That's an adventure. Something exciting that happens, I was stranded in a deserted island, and we had to be rescued by fishermen that didn't speak any English. But we survived, obviously. A sad thing that happened in our life, but a miracle, is my 18-month-old nephew was hit by a car, and the doctors gave him a 1% chance of living. But he's alive and well today. He's now 21 years old. And my biggest adventure of all is raising 3 kids. You guys are an adventure. You're an adventure for your parents. So you see, life is full of adventures. And we all have our own adventures. We all have our own circumstances in our life. And here's the deal, though. Some are awesome, but some are awful. Some we prepare for, we know are going to happen, we plan for, but other circumstances we have no clue that they're going to happen. See, when I moved to Cambodia, I knew I was moving to Cambodia. I was able to prepare for it. I mentally prepared for it. But other circumstances in my life, I had no idea. I had no idea while I was living in Cambodia that my 18-month-old nephew would be run over by an SUV. And so we all have those circumstances that we know are going to happen and that we know are not going to happen. Today I want to take a look at a story of one of the most famous Christians in history. Most of you have heard of him, is Apostle Paul. He has an amazing life. When we first meet Paul in scriptures, he's this Jewish leader. Okay, everyone knows him as this Jewish leader, and he hates the newly formed group of Jesus followers. He hates them. In fact, he made it his life mission to hunt them down and have them thrown in prison, or to be killed, in fact. But something unexpected happens in his life that he didn't plan for. And through a series of crazy and unexpected circumstances, Paul becomes a follower of Jesus himself. In fact, he goes on to becoming the Christianity's greatest missionary. He writes 13 of the 27 books in the New Testament. How crazy is that? But just like each of us have different things that happen in our life, Paul had crazy, unexpected things happen in his life. I just want to list a few because they're really crazy. For one, he was thrown in prison 3 times, at least 3 times. Okay. 5 different times he was arrested and whipped, 39 times. That's a lot. People threw rocks at him to attempt to kill him. He was bitten by a poisonous snake and lived. Okay, I hate snakes, so that one, crazy. He was shipwrecked about 3 times. Guys, what does that mean? Don't get on a boat with the Apostle Paul. He was ran out of town by crazy, angry mobs. And lastly, his whole life, he suffered from some sort of incurable physical setback, which he called the thorn in his flesh. And he asked God to take it away, and he never did. So Paul led this crazy life, and he had many unexpected circumstances. In fact, right now, all of us here are living through an unexpected circumstance. And, honestly, it's the biggest unexpected circumstance for the whole world to go through. None of us could predict this was going to happen. The COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't see it coming. We couldn't plan for it. And I'll be honest, it's not going to be the last thing that we face that is unexpected in our life. I hope that it's the last thing like this that happens, that for the last pandemic to happen, but it's important to remember that life continues and will continue to have different situations and different circumstances that we don't see coming. And because that we live through these unexpected circumstances, we need to be prepared for them. Some of the unexpected circumstances you might go through is friendships can take unexpected turns. Your best friend is your best friend one day and your enemy the next. Your parents might unexpectedly break up. You unexpectedly get fired from your first job. Or you get in an unexpected fender bender the first month you have your driver's license. It's hard. You study hard for a test. I've seen this happen, but you get an unexpected D. See, there's so much that happens in our life that are unexpected. So what do we do? How do we prepare for those unexpected circumstances? Well, we're going to see what Paul did, since he lived such a great life. But let's see what he did and how he handled it. And the verse that he used to kind of just define how he handled his unexpected circumstances was in Philippians 4:12 through 13. In that verse, it says, I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether being well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I love that verse. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So when we are facing unexpected circumstances, Paul tells us to commit to staying content. Commit to staying content. And what does content mean? Okay, what does that mean exactly? Well, simply put, it's a mindset. It's a mindset of being satisfied with where you're at. It's being satisfied and happy. Now that's interesting, right? It's being satisfied. It's being happy. When I think of satisfaction, I think of eating that burger from Chili's, and it's so satisfying, right? And that's what contentment is. It's the mindset of being satisfied and happy. Well, how did he maintain this? How did he live with joy and satisfaction through all those crazy, unexpected things that happened to him? Because Paul did. I mean, he was bitten by a poisonous snake. Okay? He was whipped and almost died 5 different times. 5 different times, right? In fact, the dude was shipwrecked 3 times, and he still remained happy and satisfied, content in where God had him. He chose to find his strength in Christ. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Whatever, Paul obviously was one of a kind. He had some sort of crazy, unique, superhuman power that allowed him to be content when nobody else could ever be able to do that, right? That's what you're thinking, right? I know that's what I'm thinking. But here's the deal. The world is full of men and women, boys and girls, teenagers, who have somehow learned to be content, to be happy and satisfied with life, no matter what life hands them. No matter what life hands them, they've learned to be satisfied and happy. Now you're saying, well, I'm not Apostle Paul. Well, I'm not either. So where will I get the power to do this? Where do I get the ability to stay content? Well, it's in that second part of that verse. It's I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can choose to have a good attitude and look for the positive. I can pray and know that God is in control and that all things can work out for the best if I keep my eyes on Him and get my strength from Him. For 2 years, I lived in Cambodia, and I learned this truth of being content the hard way. Because one day I got a phone call from my parents, and it was filled with sad news of how my 18-month-old nephew had been run over by an SUV. That his skull had been fractured, and his cerebellum had been crushed, and his brain was bleeding. And so immediately we sent out prayers to everyone, asking people to pray for him, pray for a miracle. And I was so far away from my family. And I couldn't get home. And at that moment, I decided, you know what? I have to be content on where God has me. I have to trust in Him, knowing He is in control. And miracle happened. I mean, crazy miracle happened. There's so many different details to the story, but just a few things that happened to Tony. When his head got ran over, there was a doctor that was actually there that was able to immediately revive him. The hospital that he was sent to just had a doctor write up the procedure on how to put a shunt, a new brain monitor in children that's never had been done before, was just brought to that hospital the day before, and it is really why he is alive and well today. So many people were praying for him. Here's just a couple pictures. This is him with all the 18 different devices hooked up to him. He was such a strong and brave boy. He was in the newspaper. But here he is today. He's alive and well. As you can see, he loves CrossFit. But that I learned that I had to be content in where God had me. I had to trust in Him. You see, being content, being satisfied and happy, despite all the circumstances we find ourselves in, is the key to life. We won't always be able to control what happens to us. This we know. But we can control on how we respond. We can respond by either being frustrated and angry, feeling like it's unfair, looking to blame somebody else, or letting the circumstances get the best of us. Or we can choose to stay content. We can choose to keep our eyes on the good things, not allowing the circumstances to dictate our satisfaction, to dictate our happiness. Paul did this. Paul did this in all his life, even through all the crazy things that he did through. He went through. He was content. Okay, so you're asking, but how? How can I remain content when life gets crazy? When the road that we're on gets messed up? And when we face unexpected circumstances, we need to commit to not only staying content, but we need to commit to staying close to Christ. We need to commit to Christ. And that's what that second verse in the passage we read earlier was all about. It's the famous part of the verse. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Say that. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Because here's the truth. There are two things that we have total control over. It's our attitude and the effort we put into it. And so today, I just want to end with a quick way. How do we stay content and how do we stay committed to Christ? Well, it's by focusing on having hope. And so each letter, I have a little thing in each letter so you can remember, how do you have hope? The first one is to hold on to God's promises. Did you know there's over 3,000 promises in the Bible? And so hold on to this promise. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. The Lord is my strength and my refuge. He will never leave me nor forsake me, for He is my God. So you need to choose God's truth and not the world's lies. The world will always put you down. The world will always tell you, that's not true, you can't do that. But God's truth tells you, you are not alone. He is right with you, right there with you, to help you, to give you strength. So that's the H. The O is to open your heart to loving God and others. The Bible tells us to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and to love others as you love yourself. You know, for those who battle with depression, one of the things people say to do to really help you feel better is to serve, is to volunteer somewhere to help others. It brings up your endorphins. It helps you feel better about yourself. And do that. Love God and love others. You can choose to help others instead of hurt. The words you say something kind to others instead of putting others down. Build somebody up. Build your friends up instead of hurting them. So that's the O in hope. The P in hope is to persevere in faith. Persevere. Don't give up. Keep going. Strive. Trust in God. You need to choose to do your best, to choose to not give up, to choose to have a positive attitude, and not to think that this is impossible. This is an impossible situation. Why do I even try? School's online. Why do I even try? Instead, choose to try your best, to give it your all, to be a lifelong learner. And the E in hope is to engage in new healthy habits. They say it takes about 21 days to make a habit, 40 to keep it, and 1 day to lose it. But new habits are healthy habits, right? They're habits that bring us up and not tear us down. You know, I think during this quarantine, we've all made some new habits. You know, not always the best. I can say that for myself. You know, staying up till 2 in the morning playing Among Us, maybe not such a good new habit. But make some new habits that help you. You know, maybe pray. The first thing you do when you wake up, instead of you reaching for that cell phone, pray. Ask God to give you a good day. Ask God to change your mindset on how you see your day. Thank God for all the things He's done for you. Just make a list of things that you're super thankful for. Or before you go to bed, instead of playing video games, take some time to read the Bible. Even just one verse. Read the Bible, renew your mind. Make some healthy habits instead of habits that might be destructive, instead of habits that might actually harm you more than help you. And so that's what you need to focus. That's what I wanted to share. That's the hope we can have. Because here's the deal, guys. Life is crazy, honestly. Life is crazy. And honestly, this whole COVID-19 situation is one of the most unexpected and craziest circumstances that we've been through, that we've experienced. But here's the deal. It's not the last unexpected thing that's going to come your way. It's not the last tough circumstance that you're going to find yourself in. So what do you need to do? You need to prepare. You need to figure out, how do I navigate unexpected circumstances in my life? How do I get through them? How do I do it in a healthy way? Here's the deal. You can't do anything to prevent unexpected circumstances. That's kind of why they're called unexpected circumstances. But you can prepare yourself now for how you will get through them. The best way that you can get through unexpected circumstances is to choose hope and not fear. Live in hope, not in fear. So here's my final thought for you this week. This final kind of wrapping it up so you can walk away with something is, I can't control what life will hand me, but I can control how I handle life. That's all. Thank you so much for having me. It's been super fun, and I hope to see you guys soon.